The sky above Zeltrax 4 burned with silent fire. It was not the red glow of their twin suns, nor the gentle shimmer of the gas rings that circled the outer atmosphere. No, this was fire from war. Alien ships, black and cold as death, rained down. Destruction on the peaceful colony below. Buildings exploded into dust. Fields of glowing green crops turned to ash. The alien defenders then. Tall beings with silver skin and glowing blue veins fired back with desperate energy blasts, but they were losing. One by one, their ships fell from the sky like broken bones. At the main control tower, Counselor Viren slammed a trembling hand against the glass screen. "No one is coming," he whispered, voice thick with despair. The message was sent too late. Beside him stood Thra, a young technician, eyes wide with fear. The humans. They got the signal. Viren gave him a hard look. Why would the humans come for us? We're not part of their alliance. We have no value to them. But they helped other planets, Thra said quickly. Maybe they'll help us. That hope was all they had. Hours ago, Thra had managed to bypass the central communication block and send a blind distress signal into deep space. It had only 5 words. "We are under attack. Help." No name, no coordinates. Just a desperate scream from a dying world now. As fire rained down and the screams of his people echoed through the control room, Thra stared up at the sky, hoping, begging for a miracle. And then something moved in orbit. Not one of the enemy ships. The shape was different. Larger. Colder. A shadow in the sky that blocked the stars. "What is that?" Viren said, stepping forward. The shape was like a dagger made of black metal. It didn't shimmer or burn. It just existed, silent and terrifying. Then another one appeared. Then 2 more. 10, 20. A whole fleet of them surrounding the planet. "Without a sound, scan it," Viren ordered. Thra's fingers danced across the console. His screen lit up, then went blank. "What happened?" Viren shouted. "No signature," Thra breathed. "No identification. No alliance codes." But his eyes grew even wider. "These are human ships," Viren froze. "That's impossible." But the proof was there. The shape, engine design, the carbon steel hulls. These were human warships. But they were not like the ones shown in peace meetings or alliance parades. These ships had no lights, no markings, no friendly signals. They floated in silence, watching the planet like predators. Watching prey, and then one ship moved. It didn't speak, it didn't warn. It fired, but not at Zeltrax 4. No, the shot slammed into one of the invading enemy ships, slicing it cleanly in half. Another shot followed, then another. In less than a minute, 5 of the enemy ships were destroyed with perfect accuracy. The invaders didn't even have time to react. The dark human fleet moved like a pack of wolves fast, silent, deadly. What is this fleet?" Thra whispered. Viren's voice was hollow. "This is not the Earth Alliance. This is something else." Within 10 minutes, the sky changed. Where it once burned with fire, now it shimmered with debris. The enemy was gone, scattered, destroyed. The black ships floated above, not celebrating, not signaling, just watching. Then, without a word, they began descending the control tower. Shook as one of the human ships landed outside the capital. It was massive, larger than anything the colony had seen. The ground cracked beneath its weight. Dust blew across the city. The hatch opened, and from the shadows they walked out. Humans, but not normal ones. These were not the diplomats shown in Alliance videos. Not the scientists, not the soft-spoken explorers. These humans wore black armor with no emblems. Their faces were hidden behind metal helmets. They carried weapons so advanced that even Thra could not identify them. The leader stepped forward. Tall, broad, he removed his helmet. His face was pale, marked with old scars. His eyes were gray, cold. "I am Admiral Cade," he said, voice like steel. "Fleet Black Horizon. We received your signal." Viren stepped out to meet him, heart pounding. "You're not part of the Alliance?" "No," Cade replied. were erased from the Alliance. Years ago? Too dangerous? Too effective? Why did you come? Thra asked, stepping beside Viren. Cade looked at him for a long time. Because your enemy is also ours. That was all he said before turning. Back to his soldiers. Zeltrax 4 had been saved, but not by allies. Not by friends. By ghosts. Ghosts of humanity's past. The colony was safe for now, but no one knew what would come next. Black Horizon had returned to the galaxy, and wherever they went, the rules changed, because Fleet Black Horizon was not just powerful. They were the most dangerous force in human history. And now? They were here. Not for conquest, not for peace, but for a reason no one yet understood. And that silence is more terrifying than any war. The streets of Zeltrax 4 were quiet. Not the peaceful silence of safety, but the heavy kind that followed war. Fire still burned in the outer districts. Bodies, both alien defenders and enemy invaders, lay, broken among shattered buildings. None of that held the attention of the people anymore. They stared at the black ships resting like silent beasts on the ground, and at the humans who had stepped out from them. Fleet Black Horizon, a name no one on Zeltrax 4 had ever heard, yet one that now echoed like thunder across the minds of every survivor. Admiral Cade stood with his soldiers in the central plaza. His armor was dark, polished like obsidian, reflecting the ruins around him. The aliens watched from behind barricades, afraid to come closer, even though the fleet had saved them. Something about these humans felt different, cold, heavy, dangerous. The air itself seemed to change around them, as if they carried war in their breath. Counselor Viren approached slowly, flanked by his guards, though none carried weapons. Thra followed closely behind, holding a small datapad and scanning the fleet's energy signatures, hoping to understand who they really were. You saved our world, Viren said carefully. But no one asked you to bring ... this. He glanced at the massive ships, which still loomed like shadows. Admiral Cade didn't smile. You asked for help. You didn't say what kind. You didn't expect a ghost fleet, Thra added. Cade turned his sharp eyes to the young technician. You know the old stories, then? I read some human war logs from the archives, Thra said. Fleet Black Horizon was shut down a century ago. Too brutal, too secret. Some said you were never real. We were real, Cade said. Still. But why return now? Viren asked. And why us? Cade didn't answer right away. He walked toward the edge of the plaza where a broken statue of a Zeltrax general lay on the ground. He stared at it, as if remembering something distant. Then he spoke. Your enemy, the ones who attacked you, they are not just raiders. They're scouts, from a larger force. Viren's expression darkened. How do you know this? Because we fought them before, Cade said. Long ago. No one else would. You mean during the Purge Wars? Thra asked, eyes wide. Cade nodded. We were made for that war, trained to fight in the dark, strike enemies no one else could reach. But when the war ended, the Alliance grew afraid of us, said we were. Too violent, said we didn't know how to stop. And did you? Viren asked. Cade's voice dropped to a whisper. No. There was a pause. The wind blew across the plaza, stirring the ashes of burned banners and broken glass. Thra spoke again. Then what are you doing here now? Cade turned to face him fully. We've been watching the galaxy for years, hidden, waiting. When your signal came through, it matched a frequency we were told to monitor. A trigger code, from an old war file. You mean, Thra said slowly, someone programmed our world to call you? Cade nodded once. One somewhere wanted Black Horizon to return. Viren's voice turned sharp. We didn't set that code. We don't even know who built the tower that sent it. Then someone buried it here long ago, Cade said. Which means your planet is not what it seems. The words struck like lightning. For generations, Zeltrax 4 had been nothing more than a quiet colony, known for its farming crystals and peaceful trade. It had never been part of any major conflict, or so they thought. Cade gave a quick signal, and one of his officers stepped forward, a woman with short hair and scanning equipment built into her armor. Lieutenant Voss. Cade said, "Show them." Voss activated a small holoprojector. A map of Zeltrax 4 appeared, with glowing red zones blinking underground. "These locations are shielded bunkers," she explained. "We found them buried deep, too deep for normal construction. Ancient, but still active. They're military grade." Viron's mouth went dry. "Impossible. Our people never built bunkers like that." "You didn't," Cade agreed. "But someone did. Someone who used your world to hide something long ago." Thura stepped closer, eyes locked on the glowing red zones. "Are these human bunkers?" "No," Voss said. "They're alien, but human tech was used to power the locks. Pieces didn't fit." A peaceful world with hidden war bunkers. A forgotten fleet triggered by a distress call no one understood. Enemies that shouldn't be here. And then Thra said something that made everyone fall silent. "Are we... the bait?" Cade looked at him with a grim expression. "I don't know. But if someone wanted to wake Black Horizon, they've succeeded." As the sun began to set over the battered colony, new warnings appeared in the sky. More enemy signals far beyond the system were gathering. Second wave, stronger, meaner. And this time, they knew Zeltrax 4 had defenders. But what they didn't know was who had arrived. Fleet Black Horizon. Didn't follow rules, they didn't retreat, they didn't negotiate, they only had one mission: race the threat, matter the cost. And as Admiral Cade stared into the darkening sky, his voice was like a war drum. "Prepare the ground," he ordered. "We fight at dawn." Night fell heavy on Zeltrax 4. The fires from the first attack had faded into smoking ruins, but the fear had not. The stars above blinked cold and silent, hiding the truth that danger was coming again. Inside the underground command chamber once, used for peaceful planetary coordination, now sat maps of battle zones, deep scans of buried objects. And one name that made everyone uneasy. Fleet Black Horizon. Admiral Cade stood at the center of the chamber, staring at the red blinking markers. Across the holographic map, each light marked something hidden, something old. Around him, his officers moved in silence, preparing weapons, deploying sensor drones, and scanning every inch of the planet. Outside, armored troops patrolled the cratered streets, their movements quick and calculated. Counselor Viren sat across from Cade, arms crossed tightly. His face showed tired anger and deep confusion. "You've been here only hours," he said, "and already you've found more secrets on our world than we have in a century. How is that possible?" Cade didn't look away from the map. Goes, "We've been trained to find the things no one wants to see." "You make it sound like this planet was chosen for war," Viren said quietly. Cade turned toward him. It was... A thick silence fell over the room. Thro, watching from the side, stepped forward with a datapad in his hands. "We sent deeper scans into the bunkers. The readings are strange biological life signs mixed with power signals. Something is still alive down there." Cade nodded. "It's what we're here to find." Viren stood, confused. "We thought you came to stop the enemy fleet." "Did," Cade replied. "But this planet holds something older. Something they're coming for. If they get it, they won't stop at your colony." Thra frowned. "What is it?" Cade didn't answer. Instead, he gave a sharp signal. Minutes later, transport shuttle lifted off from the capital and flew into the mountain range at the far edge of the Continentan area no one from Zeltrax 4 had visited in generations. The Black Horizon called. It zoned Theta. As the shuttle descended, the mountain opened. Not naturally. A massive stone door, nearly a mile wide, shifted open with mechanical groans that hadn't been heard in 1,000 years. Beneath it, black tunnels disappeared into the earth. The air was thick with dust and something else, something old and rotten. Decay mixed with energy. Cade stepped out of the shuttle with Thra and 2 of his soldiers. The tunnel ahead was dark, but as they moved inside, ancient lights flickered on, reacting to their presence. "What is this place?" Thra whispered. "It's a vault," Cade said. "But not to store weapons, to hide something." They walked deeper. Strange symbols lined the walls, neither human nor Zeltrax in origin. Machines long rusted sat in silence, and then they came to it, a chamber filled with pods, hundreds of them, each one covered in glass, glowing with soft red light. Inside the pods were bodies, not human, not Sheltra, something else. Tall, pale, thin, their skin had the texture of marble. Their heads were large, eyes closed, arms crossed over their chests. Ancient armor still clung to their bodies. Some had weapons fused too, their limbs. All were asleep. Thra stumbled back, fear crawling up his spine. What are they? Cade's voice was low. They're from before the Purge Wars, pre-contact era. A species wiped out during the earliest human campaigns, or so we thought. Thra looked at him. You mean these are the ones who started it all? Cade nodded. They were thought extinct, but someone hid them. Here, but why? Asked, to protect them. Cade looked at the nearest pod. No, to use them. That changed everything. These weren't survivors. They were weapons, and the enemy fleet above. Those who attacked Zeltrax 4 in the first place weren't here just to conquer. They were here to awaken these things. Thra stepped back, horror. In his eyes, if they get inside this vault, they won't, Cade said sharply. We seal it. We trap it. Make sure no one leaves alive. Back at the surface, warning sirens began to scream. Enemy ships had arrived, hundreds of them. Dark clouds of metal filled the sky. The second wave was here, and they weren't scouting anymore. They were hunting. Cade spoke into his cum. All units battle formation 2. Prepare for full-scale assault. Defend the vault at all costs. And then he looked to Thra. Tell your people to stay underground. If we fall, they run. Thra nodded, breath shaking. As he left, Cade turned back to the sleeping pods. For a second, his hand rested on one of them, feeling the cold through. His gloves? You're not waking up, he said softly. Not again. And as the first shots fell from the sky, shaking the mountains and lighting the clouds with fire, the true battle for Zeltrax 4 began. Not just for the colony, not just for survival, but to keep buried what should never be born again. The sky cracked open like a dying star. Gel stash. 4 trembled under the weight of a second invasion, far greater than the first. The enemy ships were no longer scouts, they were war beasts, shaped like blades and fangs, black and red and pulsing. With rage, from orbit, they descended in swarms, blotting out the sun. Entire formations dropped straight through the atmosphere like falling meteors, tearing through the clouds with fire and thunder. On the ground, fleet black horizons stood ready. They did not panic. They did not shout. They moved like a machine of death waking from deep sleep. Admiral Cade stood at the edge of the mountain vault. His armor locked tight, his expression carved in stone. Engage at range, he ordered calmly. Prioritize gunships. Keep them away from the vault. No one gets in. Around him, hundreds of Black Horizon soldiers moved into position, snipers set up along the cliffs. Plasma turrets rose from dug-in defense bunkers. Mines were armed. Drones swarmed the sky like silver insects. Every move was perfect. Every angle covered. Thoreau watched from inside the vault entrance, his hands gripping a datapad, his heart thundering. They're everywhere, he whispered, looking at the sensor feed. Too many ships. They'll break through. Cade said without looking at him, they'll bleed through, but they won't break. The first wave slammed into the defense line. Enemy dropships screamed toward the ground, their hulls glowing red-hot. They didn't even get close. Horizons. Rail cannons locked on and fired in perfect sequence. Blazing lines of light punched holes through the sky, turning the enemy into bursts of flame and metal. But more came, and more. Dozens. Hundreds. The horizon was nothing but fire and falling steel. Then the ground attack began. Dark figures inorganic. Armor dropped from the enemy transport stall, twisted shapes with 4 arms, bone swords, and skin that looked like living iron. They rushed the barricades with unnatural speed. Howling in voices that were more animal than words, Horizon met them. Head on, the clash was like thunder meeting stone. Cade's soldiers were brutal, quiet, unshakable. They moved in groups of 4, covering one another, striking with surgical precision. Their weapons were strange black-barreled rifles that didn't shoot bullets or beams, but folded space. When they fired, the enemy simply vanished, cut from existence mid-charge. But still, the enemy kept coming. Over the next hour, the mountain became a battlefield of smoke and ash. The cliffs were littered with alien bodies. Black Horizon held the line, but only just. Inside the vault, Thra watched the battle feed, fingers shaking on his screen. He zoomed in on one of the enemy leaders, something different from the rest. This one was taller, more heavily armored, wearing strange wires on its skull. It stood back from the fighting, observing, commanding. "That's no normal soldier," Thra said aloud. "That's their high mind." A voice crackled in his ear. "Cade, mark its location." Thra did. Moments later, a sharp whistle screamed. Through the air, one of Horizon's orbital drones dropped something from the sky. A black sphere. Silent. It hit the ground near the commander and turned into a white sun. The entire ridge lit up with heat and light, disintegrating everything for 50 meters in every direction. The alien leader and half its soldiers were gone. Thra stared. What was that? Cade's voice was cold. Sunburst. Last used during the siege of Titan, banned by Earth Alliance. But why? Because it kills too well. The battle raged for hours. Enemy after enemy fell. But Horizon 2 was bleeding. Some of Cade's men died vaporized, torn apart, buried under falling stone. For every 10 enemy soldiers they killed, 1 Horizon soldier fell, but those numbers added up. Slowly, the line was pushed back toward the vault's edge. And then, something changed. Deep below, inside the vault's ancient halls, the walls began to hum. Lights flickered. The pods, those glass coffins holding the sleeping ancient warriors, started to glow brighter. "No," Thra breathed, running to the control panel. "They're waking up. The energy from the battle, it's feeding them." Cade's voice came through again. "Shut it down." "I can't," Thra shouted. "The systems are locked. It's automatic. Something built into the vault's design." Humming grew louder. A low, pulsing sound, like a heartbeat made of stone. One of the pods cracked. A hiss of cold air escaped. And inside, the figure's eyes twitched. "They're stirring," Thra whispered. Back outside, Cade narrowed his eyes. He switched his visor feed to the vault's inner chambers. "Evacuate all non-combatants, now." The mountain shook again. Not from enemy fire. From inside, Thra stared at the awakening figures. "If they all wake up, they won't," Cade said. "I'll make sure of it." And he turned toward the command line, speaking just for words into the battlefield channel. "Deploy protocol grave silence." Every soldier on Horizon stopped what they were doing. Then they moved fast. Precise KAD's lieutenants dropped charges into the cliffs, set thermal warheads at the vault's outer edge, and deployed a perimeter of strange, humming towers that began spinning with quiet vibration. Thra ran to stop them. "Wait. You're going to destroy the whole mountain?" Cade met his eyes, calm and cold. "If those things wake, nothing will stop them. Not us, not Earth, not the galaxy. But there could be knowledge. Peaceful survivors." Cade's voice turned sharp. "There is no peace inside those coffins." The last charges were armed, and the sky above burned with incoming enemy reinforcements. The decision was made. Either the vault was sealed forever, or the war would spread beyond Gel-4, and this time, no one would be left to fight it. The mountain groaned like a dying giant. Cracks snaked down its sides. Smoke spilled from vents hidden for centuries. The glowing red lights inside the vault were no longer dim. They pulsed now, in rhythm with the awakening creatures below. Air vibrated. Power surged through the old machines, systems not meant to activate again, roaring back to life. Thra stood at the heart of it all. Inside the ancient chamber of glass pods, he looked around, helpless. As one by one, the strange figures inside began to move. Their pale skin shimmered. Their fingers twitched. Their breathing returned slow, heavy, unnatural. "They're waking," he whispered. "And I can't stop." Above him, Admiral Cade stood on a ridge overlooking the vault. He was silent as his soldiers activated the last charges. He watched the sky now burning with enemy ship sand, the mountain now glowing from within. And he made a choice. "Seal it," he ordered. The command moved fast. Black Horizon teams fell back, covering one another with fire as they retreated from the edges of the mountain. The remaining Zeltrax engineers, terrified and confused, were pulled out of tunnels by armored hands. No one argued. The soldiers' faces said everything. This wasn't about winning anymore. This was about stopping something worse than death. "Throws." The voice came through the comm. "I'm still inside. You have 1 minute to get out," Cade replied calmly. Thra's hand shook as he ran. The datapad clutched against his chest, breath sharp in his lungs. Behind him, the first of the pods hissed open. A figure stepped out tall, thin armor fused to its bones. Its eyes opened. They were solid black, no whites, no soul. And it smiled. Thra screamed and sprinted harder. Above the towers around the vault began to hum louder. Horizon's seismic charges locked into place. Red lights flickered across the command tablets of every demolition team, one by one. They confirmed readiness. Cade stood alone at the last control node. He waited 30 seconds. 2010. Then Thro burst from the tunnel, face covered in sweat and dust. "I made it. Seal it now." Cade didn't wait. He pressed the trigger. The ground exploded. Not just one blast, but dozens. The mountainside erupted with thunder and light. Entire ridges collapsed inward. Massive fireballs punched into the sky. The vault mouth caved in with a roar. Towers activated in sync, sending shockwaves down into the earth. Ancient walls cracked. The chambers below shattered. The pods, those glass coffins, were crushed under tons of rock and pressure. Thra fell to his knees, gasping, watching the mountain die. "It's done," Cade said. But it wasn't. Because deep inside the collapsing vault far below the main chamber, something moved. Something that hadn't been. In the scan, something bigger, something older. A shape rose in the dust. Far larger than the others, not in a pod but chained to the stone. Its eyes opened, golden burning, and though the rocks fell on it, it didn't die. Back at the surface, the battlefield was changing. The enemy fleet above Zeltrax 4 began to scatter. Their signals turned confused, broken. Something had changed their pattern. They weren't retreating, but they were uncertain. The vault, the prize they came for, it was gone. Buried. Cut off. Horizon didn't wait. They struck with fury. Their war machines silent tanks with invisible shells rolled from the cliffs. Their sky drones dove straight into enemy formations, cutting engines from the inside. Snipers fired from shadows with weapons that bent light. The ground lit up with disciplined chaos. Admiral Cade strode into battle like a ghost of war. His weapon wasn't a rifle but a long black staff, humming. With cold energy, he moved through enemy lines like wind through dry grass. Wherever he walked, the enemy fell. They tried to touch him. They couldn't. Thro watched from the command shelter, numb. "They did it," he whispered. "They stopped the vault." There. Pushing the enemy back, Counselor Viren stepped beside him, still covered in ash. But at what cost? Thra looked out across the scorched land. The mountains were broken. The colony was burning. Half the planet had become a graveyard, but they had survived. Barely. Suddenly a transmission broke into their channel. Not human, not Zeltrax, but something else, a deep-layered voice, cold, smooth, ancient. It spoke one word, awakened. Thra's eyes widened. What was that? Cade's voice answered. Grim, the thing we tried to bury. The enemy ships began pulling away. Not fleeing, but repositioning, moving toward the outer orbit, as if regrouping for something worse. Why are they leaving? Viren asked. They got part of what they wanted, Cade said. They woke it up. We stopped the vault, but something got through. Out. Thro looked down at the cracked datapad still in his hands. Its screen showed one last reading from the vault before it collapsed. Lifeform registered, unknown class, deep core signature. Energy. Active. He looked at Cade. What is it? Cade didn't answer at first. Then, something we once killed. And now, we have to do it again. As the last enemy ship disappeared into the sky, the planet fell silent. But the silence didn't feel like peace. It felt like the breath before the scream. The stars above Zeltrax 4 hung like silent watchers, cold and distant. The war had paused, but only for a moment. Enemy ships had pulled back into the dark, retreating beyond orbit. No more bombs fell. No more screams echoed in the canyons. No one called it victory, not even Black Horizon, because something had awayed deep beneath the crushed vault. Something ancient and forgotten had survived the collapse. A presence, massive, intelligent, and now aware. Its golden eyes had opened in the dark, and though its body had been buried under stone and steel, its thoughts were already reaching out to the enemy, to the stars, and perhaps worst of all, to Earth. Admiral Cade stood on the cliffside, helmet off, wind tearing through his black cloak. His face was hard, his gray eyes narrowed toward the distant horizon. He could feel it like a storm building behind a wall. It hadn't revealed itself fully yet, but it was there. Watching, behind him, Thro approached, the datapad still clutched in his hands. His fingers trembled, even though the device was off. I picked up a signal, he said, voice tight, right before the enemy fleet left. It came from the core beneath the vault. A single pulse. Too complex to decode. Cade didn't turn. Then it wasn't meant for us. Thra hesitated. What is it, Admiral? It's that thing. What is it? Cade finally looked at him. A mistake. He paused, then added, one we made a long time ago. Side Horizon's mobile command post, an armored crawler the size of a city blocked the officers, gathered around a hollow table lit with swirling blue-white maps. The air was thick with tension. Admiral Cade entered slowly, silence following him like a shadow. Commander Voss, his second-in-command, stood rigid. Sir, we've confirmed the vault's collapse, but there's movement below, she tapped. The display. It showed faint seismic ripples, slow, steady, unnatural, not tectonic, not structural, living. Buried or not, she continued. It's moving. Cade's expression didn't change. Is it sending signals? Voss nodded. Low frequency. Tight bursts? Not meant for us. Possibly subspace. Definitely directed. Another officer, Lieutenant Drax, leaned in. Sir, permission to say the obvious? Cade gave him a nod. We didn't stop it. We just slowed it down. The room fell. Silent. For a long time, no one spoke. Then Cade said quietly, Get me Earth Command. The officers stiffened. Voss frowned. Sir, Earth Command erased us. We're not supposed to exist. They buried us. Cade agreed. But this is bigger than politics. Far below the surface of Zeltrax 4, where the stones still glowed from the pressure blasts, something moved. Through the darkness, it was not alive in the way humans or aliens understood life. It did not breathe. It did not bleed. But it remembered. Long ago, it had been a king. A war thinker. A builder of stars? Then it had been betrayed. Its army slaughtered. Its body chained. Its mind locked in eternal sleep. But sleep could not last forever now. After 1,000 years of silence, it had awoken to a galaxy it no longer recognized. The stars had moved. New creatures ruled the void. But one thing had not changed. War and war was something it understood better than any living being. Back on the surface, Zeltrax survivors gathered in broken towns, patching holes, burying dead, and trying to make sense of what had happened. The counselor? Viren stood among them, eyes hollow. He watched as Black Horizon soldiers helped distribute food, clear rubble, and repair what little could be saved. It was strange. The very force that had terrified them now kept them alive. Do they always fight like this? A young Zeltrax child asked. Viren looked toward the sky, where the burned clouds still hung like bruises. They only fight when something truly evil shows its face. That night, Thrall sat alone on a small hill outside the capital ruins. His datapad glowed in his lap. He had cracked part of the signal the one the creature below had sent just before the collapse. It wasn't a weapon code. It wasn't coordinates. It was a name. A single ancient name from a long-forgotten war. He whispered it into the wind. Kavaroon. He didn't know what it meant, but the datapad translated it as one word. Remnant. Behind him, Cade appeared, his boots crunching over stone. You figured it out, the Admiral said. Thrun nodded slowly. Kavaroon. It called itself the Remnant. Cade stared up at the dark sky. We fought its kind once. Not with diplomacy, not with rules. They don't understand those things. They were kings of the old dark. Galaxies fell under them. And we only survived because we thought they were extinct. But they weren't, Thra said. No, Cade replied. Someone locked them away, and someone else wanted them back. Thra's eyes narrowed. You mean the enemy fleet? Cade shook his head. No, I mean someone on Earth. The wind stopped. The sky was quiet. But beneath the ground, Kavarin smiled in the dark, because even buried, it could feel the war to come, and it had waited a long time for this galaxy to be afraid again. The cold night over Zeltrax 4 stretched long and quiet, but there was no peace in the silence. The stars above no longer felt distant, they felt like eyes. Watching. Waiting. The creature known as Kavaroon still stirred beneath the crushed vault, sending subtle tremors through the planet's crust. It didn't scream or roar. It didn't break free. It simply waited because it knew something the rest of them didn't. It wasn't alone, and the one who helped wake it was not in the sky. They were on Earth, inside the command post of Fleet. Black Horizon. Admiral Cade stood motionless in the deep room, a dark chamber used only for secure transmissions. Around him, the curved walls shimmered faintly, filtering out all signals, even light. He was alone with a device older than most of the galaxy's current governments, a direct link to Earth's forgotten files. After decades of silence, he had done what no one in Black Horizon ever dared. He sent a call back home. It took 17 minutes for the reply to arrive. Not a full message, just a voice, familiar, cold. Admiral Cade, you were instructed never to contact this channel again. Cade's jaw tightened. We found something buried on Zeltrax 4. It's alive, and it remembers the old wars. There was a long pause. Then, you weren't supposed to find the vault. Cade's eyes narrowed, and someone knew it was. Here. Another pause. Then came the words that froze his blood. It was put there on purpose. Meanwhile, Thra sat in the ruins of the old communication tower, his datapad running loops through fragments of intercepted enemy transmissions. Most of the language remained unreadable, hissing tones. Layered static, but one file had repeated itself over and over. In a whispering rhythm, he filtered it through every translation matrix he had. Only 3 words kept coming through. Open. The path. He didn't know what it meant, but he had a terrible feeling the thing under the ground did. Behind him, footsteps. Turned. It was Commander Voss. We traced your deep scan back through orbital deflection, she said, voice low. The signal sent to wake the vault didn't come from the enemy fleet. Thra stood up, confused. Then where? From Earth, a relay base orbiting Mars, hidden under an old civilian science lab. But would Earth wake something like this? Thra asked. Voss didn't answer. Back in the command chamber, Cade stared into the holographic image of a man he hadn't seen in over 30 years, Director Mylan. Former commander of the Earth Strategic Division, the man's face had barely aged. It meant only one thing. He was under temporal stasis tech. A man too dangerous to let die, too powerful to fully live. You used us, Cade said. Black Horizon was erased, exiled, declared too violent for the Alliance. And now I find out you planted a vault with one of the old gods right beneath. A peaceful colony? It wasn't a god, Mylan replied coldly. It was a failsafe. Cade almost laughed. A failsafe? You mean a monster? We knew the galaxy would fall into weakness again, Mylan continued. We knew the next war would not be one we could predict. So we planted old weapons in forgotten places, in case Earth ever needed to remind the stars what fear felt like. We're going to unleash it, Cade said darkly. Only if we had no choice. Cade stepped forward, fury rising. You tried to bury us because we were too dangerous. But this thing is death given shape. Yes, Mylan said. That's the point. The transmission cut. Cade stood there, the air in the room turning heavy. For the first time in years, he felt something stir in his chest. Not fear, but betrayal. Hours later, Cade briefed the remaining Zeltrax leaders and Black Horizon commanders. The meeting was held inside a shattered library, now turned into a war room. Cracked shelves surrounded them, full of burned knowledge and unread histories. Earth Command seated Kervani, he said bluntly. I planned this. We were. Never meant to save Zeltrax 4. We were meant to wake the creature. The room erupted in voices. Viren stood, face pale.
Then the enemy. They didn't start this. They sensed the awakening, Cade answered.
They came to claim it. But Earth made the first move. Thra spoke next. So what now? We've buried it, but it's not dead. The enemy fleet is regrouping, and Earth might send more. Cade looked around at everyone. We finished this. On our own terms? Voss frowned. How? We cut the relay, Cade said. If Earth still has other buried horrors like this, we shut them down. All of them. And we make sure Kervorn never leaves this planet, Sir Voss said. Slowly, are you declaring war on Earth? Cade didn't blink. I'm declaring war on whoever thinks they can play God. And for the first time, the true mission of Black Horizon was reborn. They were no longer soldiers of Earth. They were humanity's final firewall, and someone had lit the match behind their backs. Now, it was time to burn the ones holding the torch. Far below, in the deep cracks under the mountain, Cavaroon still stirred. Its golden eyes closed once more, not in sleep, but in patience. It had seen war take many shapes, but it had never seen creatures like these humans, broken, exiled, forgotten, and still dangerous. It smiled again, because even in chains, even in shadow, it understood something Earth had forgotten. You don't bury monsters, you make more. The sky above Zeltrax for no longer burned. The enemy fleet had vanished beyond orbit. Earth's signal relays had gone silent. And the ground beneath the broken mountain no longer shook, but no one in the galaxy believed the danger was over. Because the most dangerous fleet in human history had not left. It had changed its target. Inside the command vessel of Fleet Black Horizon, Admiral Cade stood before a full strategic display of the inner solar system. Earth, Mars, Jupiter, the planets hung as glowing orbs, calm and silent. But Cade no longer saw home when he looked at them. He saw lies. He saw control. And he saw the source of the signal that had tried to wake. "'Cause VRU and behind him, Commander." Voss stepped forward. "The Mars relay is real. We tracked the exact source, an orbital station called Aegis 9, hidden inside the debris field. Civilian cover, but it's military." Cade didn't look away. "Any word from Earth?" "Nothing. We've been shut out of all Earth channels. They're pretending we don't exist again." Thra joined them, his face pale. "We're not just cut off," he said. "We're marked." Earth Command issued a shadow classification to all allied networks. Anyone helping Black Horizon will be labeled rogue. Cade nodded slowly. "Then we don't ask for help." Voss leaned in. "Sir, If we hit Earth or Mars, we don't hit Earth, Cade said. We break the relay. We shut down the signal chain. If Cavaroon wakes again, or if there are more buried monsters, we stop them before the next fool decides to use. Then Voss looked him in the eyes. That's a one-way mission. Cade's voice was steady. That's what we were built for. 12 hours later, Fleet Black Horizon left ZELTRAX-4. They left no symbols, no banners, no farewells, only silence. The people of Zeltrax watched the black dagger-shaped ships rise into the dark, their engines as quiet as falling snow. Admiral Cade had said only one thing before leaving: survive, we'll handle the rest. Then they were gone, but not into deep space, not into exile. They turned inward. Toward Mars, Aegis 9 spun silently above the red planet, hidden in orbit behind a field of artificial debris. It looked like an abandoned research lab. Its lights dim, its comes off. But beneath that shell were 10 defense platforms, 20 railguns, 2 orbital EMP banks, and a garrison of over 1,000 Earth security personnel. It was never meant to be. Found, until now, Black Horizon arrived without warning. No declarations. No transmissions. They dropped out of fold space directly above Aegis 9 in perfect formation. 30 stealth warships shaped like blades of night. They didn't blink. They didn't ask. They descended. The station panicked. Defense turrets came. Alive drones launched. EM shields activated too. Late Horizon cut through the defenses like knives through mist. Their weapons were old, yes, but not obsolete. They were forbidden for a reason. World-fold warheads blinked small sections of space. Out of existence, railgun shots curved mid-flight. Cloaked breacher teams moved through solid walls, disabling weapons before alarms could finish sounding. Within 16 minutes, Aegis 9 was neutralized. No deaths, no fires, just shut down. Inside the relay core, Thros stood with Voss, staring at a massive crystal device humming with energy. Pulses ran through its signals, alive and reaching for something beneath the stars. This is what woke Cavaroon, Thro whispered. It's still calling. It's not for long, Voss said. Cade arrived, quiet and calm. Thro turned. Sir, I can reroute the signal. Send a message. To everyone. Cade nodded. Do it. Thro's fingers flew over the controls. One last message. Pulsed into the galaxy not in fear, not in distress, but in warning. Buried weapons have been uncovered. Cavaroon was only the first. Earth Command woke it. Others may follow. We are Black Horizon. We are awake. They won't stop it. We will. Then Cade stepped forward, and he shut it down. The crystal relay shattered with a hiss. The lights dimmed. The pulses ended. The chain was broken. No more signals. No more Waynix. Back on Zeltrax 4. Cavaroon felt the silence. Its golden eyes opened again. Its golden eyes opened again. It listened, no signal. No voice had been cut off, but it didn't. Raged it, didn't scream. It simply waited, because now it knew two things. First, Earth feared it enough to hide it. Second, somewhere out there, humanity had created something more terrifying than it had ever known. Not gods, not kings, but men and women. Cast out by their own world, who still chose to fight. Admiral Cade stood aboard the bridge of the Phantom Edge looking out into deep space. The stars stretched far and dark. He knew Earth would deny everything. He knew enemies would rise again, but they had bought the galaxy time, and sometimes time was all you needed to change everything. Where to now? Voss asked behind him. Cade didn't answer right away. Then, every star where monsters sleep. Fleet turned silently. No parades, no medals, no flag. Only shadow, only fire, only Black Horizon.